Do you feel pressure anymore in moments like this?
No, I always feel excitement, pressure when I play, but yeah, the kind of the pressure that I put on myself to do well is always more important.
Okay, always looking within, and so far, of course, it has worked out for the best player of all time.
Of course, but taking out him, Nihal, Magnus picked you himself. Yesterday, you're stepping on that stage. How do you feel taking out that Titan?
Yeah, it's going to be, of course, an extremely tough match, and yeah, I just want to give it my all and hope for the best.
Let's go, Nihal. It is time to kick off that second match. Nihal, can I have you stand right there for the pre-match face-off? Rob, absolute banger.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially about that time. Only one of these players is going to move forward. Let's go ahead and get things started. It is time for Nihal versus Magnus Carlsen.
And it's showtime. We have an epic matchup here in the quarterfinals. Magnus Carlsen, probably the best player in the world, against Nihal Sarin, one of the fastest players on the world. And Ben, we are going to be in for a treat as we see Magnus Carlsen gearing up with the white pieces against his young opponent. What can we expect from this match?
That's right, Yovi. The best player in the world versus maybe the fastest player in the world. This was my two picks that when they asked us to pick our favorites, these were my two. They're playing pretty early on, just like they did last year. Obviously, Magnus is a big favorite, but Nihal can be anybody on a good day. It's a 4-game match. Unlike yesterday, we had 2-game matches. And so far, the match we did earlier saw 4 draws. Yeah, I agree with Nemo. We're not going to see 4 draws here. So it's going to be some decisive results. It's going to be exciting. Both sides have chances to win. And I know Magnus, who has the white pieces, the first game, is going to want to get off on the right foot.
Exactly. I mean, the two did play at the EWC last year. There, it was a convincing victory for Magnus. Magnus is going to be looking to repeat that. And for Sarin, there's nothing like a grudge match.
That's right. He's going to want to make up for last year. Nihal having good tournaments so far, having to win some matches. Looks like so far Magnus has been coasting. Maybe he wasn't feeling well on his first day. Looks like he feels pretty good now. So we're going to see a really exciting match. And I don't expect a lot of draws, Yovi. I think we're going to see some decisive results this match.
And it's interesting, right? Because most people, when they don't play very well and they play at 50%, they don't play that well. But Magnus still managed to cruise past Yesipenko, Hans Niemann, and just effortlessly got himself a spot into the top 8. For Nihal Sarin, it's been a lot tougher. He was knocked down to the lower bracket by Arjun Erigaisi, but then he beat yesterday on demand Wei Yi, Jan-Christoph Duda.
Wow.
Big names.
Look, everybody's a big name in this tournament. There's no easy baskets. Every match is tough. Every game is tough. And here we go. We have a Sicilian to start out game 1 of the match.
We do have a Sicilian as the knight comes, takes the pawn, and look at this. We have business as the knights get open. This is an open Sicilian, so this really means that both sides are going to be playing aggressively.
We have a knight or a Sicilian. Pretty recently, players have been starting to play H3, but it's funny. I was doing a lecture. On the knight or Sicilian with A6.
Yep, and it's good, as you can see.
Yeah, and it's funny. One of the games I analyzed was from Bobby Fischer in the 60s, and Fischer played H3, which prevents black from playing knight G4 later. And here's a move I don't know. Nihal Sarin played H6. This stops white from playing bishop G5, which usually doesn't play in the line with H3. Typically, white wants to play G4, bishop E3, and maybe at some point play G5. So H3, pretty common move. H6, I don't know. And Magnus plays a slightly unusual move, bishop D3. We're getting into uncharted territory. There's so many different lines in the knight orf. Sometimes white castles kingside, which seems likely here. Sometimes white develops the queenside pieces and castles queenside. And it's a good question whether Nihal's going to keep the king in the center for a long time or castle kingside himself. So bishop d3, slightly unusual, h3, h6, and Nihal, the first one, thinking about what's going on, because both sides are playing not the main line, and they want to just... Magnus does that a lot. He just wants to play chess, doesn't want to test his opponent's memory.
And there we see a choice from Nihal as he does go for a very flexible pawn structure. He could have pushed that pawn one square forward to attack the knight, but that's a different game entirely. Now we have something different, and as you mentioned, the choice is for whites. You can just castle your king, get it to safety. You can also develop your bishop and just keep your opponent guessing that little while longer. If you're feeling really ambitious, I was going to say another pawn move and not this one. Here, Magnus is indicating that he wants to clamp down on the left and he's going to direct the play to the right.
Yeah, a positional way of playing for Magnus, h3 and a4, stopping the black from doing anything. And black plays b6, putting all of his pawns on the third rank. So-called hedgehog way of playing. Black wants to fianchetto his bishop and eventually put his other bishop on e7. So it seems like both sides are going for kingside castling this game. Magnus plays an aggressive move that you don't always see with a4, and that's f4. Magnus pushing his kingside pawns, controlling the center. White has more space. Black is very solid. Magnus has this slight time advantage, trying to get his opponent out of preparation, which I think he did. Now the players have to play their own moves. You know, one thing I was complaining about earlier today, Yovi, because I like to complain. You know, I'm a grandmaster. Complain as much as possible. I was like, how come there's no open Sicilians in this tournament? All we see are Catalans. Then today we see g3, bishop g2. And finally, my complaining has come to fruition. We have an open Sicilian Najdorf. It's going to be really exciting. And the repetitions, the stalemates, and the draws are going to be off the table. We're going to see exciting chess today.
Exactly. And one of the things that is a bit ironic about the structure for black is that it has a kind of name of the hedgehog, right? And the whole idea is that, yes, it looks innocuous, you know, all of black's pawns lined up there, not too far from home. However, if you try to go for it, then the spikes come out and you have to be careful of those squares you leave behind. But Nihal, just considering what to do, the natural move would be just to develop the light square bishop, but he goes for developing his knight. And big question to Magnus, what is he going to do? He comes forward with the queen, and now I'm expecting white to get castled ASAP and then just, again, get developed all of the pieces and then just keep arguing to black. You don't have as much space as me.
Yeah, both sides are wondering about white playing e5. White played f4. Black defended the e5 square with knight bd7. Magnus played queen e2. He wants to play e5. Nihal says queen c7, defending the e5 square. And he hopes that white can never play e5. Black can get developed in castle and eventually equalize the game. So the question is Magnus going to go all out here and play g4 and long? No, he just plays short castle, plays very solid. White has a little bit more space. White's going for a small advantage, not the monster attack that we sometimes see in the Sicilian. White has more space in the center, and typically White's king goes to the side of the board, h1, for example, getting off of the diagonal with the knight, and the other rook will go to e1, and White will start attacking in the center and the king side. Very double-edged position. I'm sure both players are happy right now.
Yeah, and now the big question is, are we going to be seeing the move that you pounded the table for? Is he going to lift up that pawn in front of his king, advance it 2 squares? Is he maybe going to work his magic on the other side of the board and just go for total control? And he goes for total control. He is just arguing and saying to black, you know what? You don't have any space. I'm going to make you suffer.
No knight c5 for black, taking away the c5 square. The bishop on d2 does a good job defending the knight on c3. And yeah, Magnus just says, I want space all over the board. No space for you.
And no space for you. One of the most unpleasant things about having no space is that you have to fight with cramped forces and pieces get in the way of each other. So Nihal will be looking at making piece trades. He's also going to have to anticipate what white will do, because white still has a lot of options open. You can lift up your rook. You can also do what Ben was advocating for, pick up the g-pawn and go really happy with it. But For the time being, Magnus might take some time out, tuck his king into the corner, and then just keep Nihal guessing. Nihal needing to break out.
Yovi, you're predicting all the moves. B4, King H1. We got to get you down there. We'll get Magnus up here to do the commentary. We'll have Yovi versus Nihal.
Well,
87% Yovi.
there's an expression where we say the commentator, the spectator sees absolutely everything, because this game doesn't carry that much emotion for us at least, but for the player, oh, there's so much tension and suspense. So the bishop tucks itself back, and now this is the question. What is white going to play? I remember when I was playing this type of stuff as a kid, I was lifting up my rook because I really like these rook lifts, and then starting moving them over towards the king. Okay, that didn't happen. Magnus, a lot more sophisticated than 12-year-old me.
Yeah, he wants to put the queen on h4 and then push the kingside pawns. Maybe he'll play rook to g3, do a rook lift after moving his queen to h4, so he has more pieces pointing towards the black king. The question is black going to break out at some point with b5 or d5 or e5? Or is Nihal content to keep the solid position and wait for Magnus to do something to change the nature of the game? And again, I said this before, when these are slow games, classical chess time controls, we have slow maneuvering. You can't really do that in rapid chess, 10 minutes. You got to make quick decisions and hope that you're not blundering, and hope when you change the position, it's for the better.
The problem is Nihal really can't just sit there waiting, because I'm seeing the skeleton of an attack against the black king, right? So I'm thinking if the queen just lifts herself up 2 squares, if the rook comes up and all the pieces start looking at the black king, you could see trouble on the horizon. Okay, so the rook just waits. And what will Magnus do? Is the time now? Another idea I wanted to say is you can just also start to break open the diagonals and even maybe do a piece sacrifice here and there. These are not my pieces.
Easy to sacrifice somebody else's pieces. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, it could very well happen, right? So I'm just thinking you can lift up the f-pawn. But first up, I like this whole plan of moving with the queen, and this is exactly what Magnus has done. I was actually advocating for 1 square further, but not approved by the engine.
No, I agree with you, Yovi. I like queen h4 better, so the white rook has the g3 square. Seems like white's rooks aren't really participating in the attack after queen g3. And I'm wondering, I can see the move being inaccurate, but a question mark. Man, this computer overlord's really mean today.
It is a bit mean because it's not entirely, okay, hang on a second, you'll get the wish and you'll do it with some extra time. Okay, now, big question, given a question mark, and I think that's because it just allows white the time to lift up a rook, get the rooks involved into the game. Everyone wants to party on that side of
Yeah, Nihal just lost the tempo there, so this worked out well for Magnus. He got queen h4 in, and he gets to move again. The engine doesn't like this knight f6 move, moving back and forth, giving Magnus extra time.
I gotta say, Magnus playing with a 93.9 accuracy. In my books, them's good. And heart rates, very standard, I would say, for both of them, around the 80 mark, which in my eyes, pre-Arjun Erigaisi was relatively calm.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're hoping for a rook lift. Rook to e3 or f3, rook g3, start some attack on the king side. Magnus does start attacking. Very double-edged move. He gives away the e5 square, so black can play knight e5, but the e6 pawn is hanging, so now we can get some sacrifices in.
Exactly. Let's see whether they work, in fact, because there's a big question here. Can you go all in to the attack? And I'm looking over at Ben and I say, let's just show it. Like, if black plays the most natural move, which is to lock up the center, the big thing is don't go back with a knight, go forward.
Yay, 96, attack.
And you can see the evaluation bar giving it a stamp of approval. It's saying this is the way forward. Oh, we're going to see it. We're going to see it, Ben. It's happening on our screens.
Yay, the analysis board and the regular board are the same. Magnus sacrifices a piece. The engine says black should play g5. That seems like a crazy move, but the knight doesn't really have any good squares. Knight b8 isn't something you want to do. And instead he gives his knight back immediately. Let's see what he does. We get rid of the analysis board, go back.
And there we're seeing that after giving back the piece, I can understand there were just too many pieces around the black king. So now the queen gets out of trouble, gets out of the eye line of the bishop, drops back, and now big threat on the board. This bishop on d2, this dark square bishop is pointing at the black king. The black king needs to step away from trouble. And if that doesn't work, oh dear, problems.
Yes, Magnus is going to have a monster attack. Magnus has a big time advantage already. Nihal's getting short on time with less than 3 minutes left. Magnus still has more than 5. Magnus has the half-open G line, the half-open F line to attack. The knight can go to D5, getting some more pieces into the attack. And black doesn't really have any counterplay against the queen side there, Yovi. So it's one-way traffic for this game.
Yeah, I'm going to say, actually, Nihal's in huge trouble. I mean, the evaluation bar telling us this is the most natural move. And look, a beautiful move there from Magnus. The whole point is you don't care about material. What you want to be doing is just opening up the diagonals, and the light squared bishop is going to be such a dangerous piece. I would even go rook takes pawn.
Sacrifice the rook.
Exactly. You don't care throwing away material because checkmate ends the game.
That's right. Those white squares are more important than a measly exchange.
Exactly. And if you get that bishop and the queen lined up on this beautiful light squares, it's going to be game over for black. Look at the black monarch. It's all by itself. And let's just.
Oh, he takes with the bishop. No.
Okay.
Come on, Magnus. You could have taken with the rook.
And this is what we were advocating.
Yeah, we wanted this to happen. Then Magnus could play queen g6 and play for mate at those white squares.
Yeah.
Magnus is like, I just want to be a pawn up. Give me a break. White's a pawn up. Black doesn't really have any compensation. White still has an attack against black's king. But probably more incisive was to sack the exchange. Always sack the exchange. One of my rules.
Not our pieces. So I can understand why Magnus is like, you know what, I don't need to do this. I don't need to go all into the attack. When this position is so nice and so good, and you've seen he's a comfortable pawn up, why take the risk? Very pragmatic decision there from Magnus. Now, the big question is how to improve the pieces in order to get them to that finish line. The rook comes in, so big idea of bishop is going to slam down.
You keep playing bishop takes h6, Yovi, in every position. You're attacking.
That's my commentator style. I just want to be giving up the pieces. But there's a point that there's going to be a ladder checkmate on the board. And if the black king is left without any protection, so this is why the rook steps forward. The rook wants to do some nifty defensive footwork on the line. And now here, what to do? You can just simply start improving your pieces. I perhaps would be tempted to improve my bishop or maybe advance a pawn. But we'll see which way Magnus goes.
Magnus with a big time advantage, a winning position on the board, extra pawn. He's got the rook on e6. Nihal's very passive. So far, this game is one-way traffic, just Magnus having as much fun as he can. And he's just figuring out, I like this move, I like this move, I like this move. He's trying to figure out which gives him the biggest advantage.
Exactly. I mean, he can even dive up with the queen and start attacking the rook. Magnus is not looking 100% happy, but that's only because he's just looking for the cleanest way to finish off the board. But it has worked out to perfection. He chose an open Sicilian. He took the risk, played perfectly, and Nihal already staring down the barrel of defeats. What is Magnus? He goes in with the queen. The bishop drops back, black groveling, just desperately trying to hold the position together. And the move that I was asking for in a different position, but I think is also quite relevant here, is you can start improving the left side of the board. Okay, this one is also good enough. Magnus just showing us good technique.
Yeah, we like to say in the U.S. during commentary, white has the extra pawn and the compensation. So white's better on the board, and white has an extra pawn. Black is very passive. Magnus can do whatever he wants, and Magnus has an extra minute on the clock. Time situation, not good for Nihal. He has a minute 22 left. He finally goes on the counterattack, attacking the d5 pawn. Magnus centralizes his queen. queen e4, defending everything. Very difficult for black to attack anything. And in the long run, Nihal's just in a lot of trouble, but he's going to keep defending and hope that Magnus gets low on time. Maybe Magnus will make a mistake.
Exactly, and Nihal fighting hard now, hoping to have some kind of pressure against White's queenside pawns, but in comes the queen, now comes the rook. Where is Her Majesty gonna go? Less than a minute now for Nihal, dives in. And this is just really floundering here. There isn't any threat, even with that active queen. Not much that Nihal can do. I'm expecting the rook to drop back one square and set up what is going to be a terminal pin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a terrible position for Nihal. All his pieces are pinned. Bishop's pinned, the rook's pinned. Magnus is trying to find the cleanest way to win. The bishop can't go to b4 right now because of queen f4 check. Nihal trying to unpin his rook by trading queens.
Okay, and now we're seeing a trade of rooks. I was actually expecting a trade of queens, so that one took me by surprise. But here, this one is also beautiful. No risk whatsoever for Magnus as he starts to slowly improve his position. There's some kind of maybe some tricky ideas with some h5 ideas for black, but here Magnus starts improving. And look at
Magnus
that
wants to play
bind.
h5 first.
It is just fixing the pawns on his color complex.
Right, if he gets to play h5, that keeps the black pawn on g7 stuck on a black square. Okay, now Magnus has to make a decision whether to trade queens or repeat. Trades queens, plays h5.
Yeah. And
Nihal has to play g6 to stop the king from going to f5, but then the h6 pawn is hanging.
exactly.
So Magnus has the extra pawn and the better king.
And everything is just working perfectly in stages. First, Magnus has maximized his king. Now he's going to be maximizing his bishop. And he's just working out. Look at this. Not a single square for Nihal's bishop. And the position has got to give. We're now in a pure king and pawn endgame. And Magnus starts running to assist his extra pawn. And he wins. What a game.
Pretty
So
effortless
clean.
from